And this is his first time over here playing in the States. And this is what he's doing right out the gate. He's at a better home run pace than any Japanese player that's ever come over to America to play baseball. Right now, he's on a pace. This could be a 50 home run player.
Here's a thought experiment, guys. You are the general manager of a baseball team. A 26-year-old left-handed slugger hits the open market. The same guy who at 22 years old won the Triple Crown in Japan's top league, took home the unanimous MVP with every single first place vote, and hit 56 home runs in a single season. He broke a record that had stood for nearly 60 years. And then after 8 seasons with the Yakult Swallows, he gets posted available to every team in baseball. So what do? Well, if you're 29 out of 30 MLB front offices, apparently you pass. And if you're the Chicago White Sox, a team that just went 60-102, a team working on their 3rd straight 100-loss season, a team that had become a kind of symbol for organizational dysfunction, you somehow walk away with the most exciting thing to happen on the South Side in years. What happened next is a story baseball people are going to be talking about for a long time. But before we get into today's video, guys, shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks application. It's a daily fantasy sports platform, really easy to use. You just pick more or less on a few player stats to create a lineup. You pick stats for individual players, points, strikeouts, fantasy score, hits, runs. And they also have a new beta feature called Team Picks where you can pick the winner, spread, or total number of any major game. It's available in most states, including California, Texas, Florida. When you play your first $5 lineup, again, you'll get $50 to use with the code HMA. So shout out Prize Picks again. We appreciate it. Check them out. They definitely make watching games like the A's or the Rockies or something you maybe don't care about or your favorite team a little bit easier. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right back to it. Munetaka Murakami didn't sneak up on the NPB. He hit 52 home runs in high school in Kumamoto, earning the nickname the Babe Ruth of Higo. When he was 17, the Yakult Swallows, the Yomiuri Giants, and the Rakuten Golden Eagles all wanted him with the first pick in the 2017 NPB draft. Yakult ended up winning the lottery, and in his first full season in the league, he hit 36 home runs and took home Rookie of the Year at just 19 years old. By 2021, he won the Central League MVP, slashing 278, 408, 566, with 39 home runs and 112 RBIs. He was only 21 years old. And then 2022 happened, the season that put him on every single MLB team's radar in the world. He didn't just hit 56 home runs, he won the batting title, the home run title, and the RBI title, becoming the first CL player to win the Triple Crown since Nobuhiko Matsunaka in 2004, and the youngest player ever to do it. He received all 299 first place MVP votes. His nickname, Murakami-sama, meaning something closer to Murakami the God, became Japan's word of the year. By any measure, this was a generational talent entering MLB free agency. So how did he end up signing for $34 million with the worst team in baseball? The answer is concerns were real, even if the conclusions may have been wrong. Because since his record-setting 2022 season, Murakami's strikeout rate had climbed steadily from 21% in his peak season up to 28% and then 30% in consecutive years, while his walk rate declined. His strikeout rate against high-velocity pitching in the NPB raised serious flags. When scouts pulled the tape, what they saw in the data was a guy who simply hadn't faced much premium velocity. CBS Sports noted that Murakami had struck out at least 28% of the time in 3 straight seasons heading into free agency, and historically, NPB hitters who transfer to the major leagues see their strikeout rate climb, and sometimes drastically. The Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Mariners were all logical fits given his age, power, marketability, and every single one of them looked at the swing and miss data and decided it wasn't worth the risk. Murakami originally was projected for a 9-figure deal. Some estimates had him near $100 million, and he ended up with a smaller contract than Jock Peterson got the winter before. Now, credit where credit's due, the White Sox analytics department and director of hitting Ryan Fuller had studied Murakami's swing a lot. GM Chris Getz would later admit he didn't even think they had a realistic shot until the final week of the 45-day posting window. And then the market just didn't materialize for Murakami. Getz told MLB.com, "Candidly, I didn't think it was going to be a realistic target for us. I didn't. The speculation was big, whether it be years and dollars. But when it became clear no one was handing Murakami the deal he expected, Getz made his move. He got Murakami through a midnight hospital MRI and onto a 2-year, $34 million deal. And just like that, Chicago got one of the most anticipated Japanese bats in years on a prove-it contract." Now, guys, as we know, the rest is history. Opening day came around, Murakami became the first player in White Sox history, and fourth in MLB history, Murakami could not be stopped. He became the fastest player in White Sox history to reach double-digit home runs in a season, doing it in 24 games, the fourth fastest in all of MLB history. Every single one of his 14 extra base hits up to that point had been home runs, the longest streak to start a career since at least 1900. And the velocity concerns that everyone was citing all winter, Murakami became the only player in the league this season to homer off of multiple pitches over 98.1. Against fastballs in general, he's hitting 270 with a 714 slugging percentage. Gates put it simply when asked why other teams passed. Quote, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you can't hit it. As of right now, through 38 games, Murakami is sitting at 15 home runs, tied for the MLB lead with a 22.1 barrel rate and an average exit velocity of 95.4. He's walking at a 17.5% clip, and his xWOBA sits at 391 in the top percentile in sport. Rhys Hoskins is the only player in MLB history with more home runs through his first 38 games of their career. But now let's talk about what the numbers don't show, because the home runs are the headline, but the actual story is bigger. The Chicago White Sox are not a good baseball team. Let's not pretend otherwise. They're still a rebuild in progress, still working through years of organizational mismanagement that predates this current front office, but something has clearly shifted in that clubhouse in 2026, and it starts with how these players look when they show up to the park. Murakami treated teammates to a sushi dinner on an off day in San Diego in late April, and by the next game, he and shortstop Colson Montgomery had already developed a new handshake. It was game 32, and the two of them had already homered in the same game 7 times together, the most by any teammate duo in the first 35 games of a season in MLB history. Montgomery called Murakami a centerpiece of the team. Murakami responded, he's a centerpiece of the team. I'm glad we got him, Montgomery said of Murakami, right? Like, this is the kind of thing that matters. Tone is contagious in a clubhouse. For a franchise that watched its former core deteriorate, Luis Robert gone, Eloy Jimenez gone, Tim Anderson gone, and spent years playing through a grind that had no joy in it, the presence of this guy just hits. It changes the air in the building. The White Sox won 10 games before May 1st for the first time since 2021. They were hanging within a half game of the AL Central lead as recently as early May. That's not all Murakami, but it's hard to separate him from it. The young arms are delivering. Noah Schultz, the 22-year-old 6'10" flamethrower, has been pitching like someone who belongs. Sean Burke went on the stretch of 14.1 scoreless innings. Chase Meadrith is settling in at second base. The pieces are there, and Murakami connects them all. Manager Will Venable said it great. When you have guys in the middle of the order that are able to change the score with one swing, obviously it's going to make a big difference. The adjustments are going to come. They always do. Pitchers are going to test him, exploit the strikeout rate, and there will be stretches. That's not a prediction. It's just baseball. The question is what he looks like on the other side of it. Now, here's where the story pivots because the future is not guaranteed. Murakami signed a 2-year, $34 million contract. He becomes a free agent after the 2027 season. That's it. So the clock is already ticking. Chris Getz, when asked directly about extension talks on White Sox Live, confirmed that the team had reached out to Murakami's agents and there is mutual interest in getting a long-term deal done. But in almost the same breath, a member of the organization confirmed to the Chicago Sun-Times that as of this week, there are no current talks. Right? So mutual interest, no current talks. If you're a White Sox fan, you have heard some version of that sentence before. And of course, the Dodgers name keeps coming up. And guys, Max Muncy's deal is set to expire around the same time Murakami hits free agency. Freddie Freeman's contract ends after 2028. The Dodgers will need a lefty bat at first base. They have the market, the money, and the infrastructure to sign Japanese players to massive deals. The math basically does itself. Now, Murakami's next deal, if he performs even close to this level over 2 seasons, could eclipse the $150 million deal Schwarber got from the Phillies last winter. That is not White Sox kind of payroll commitment, historically speaking. But this moment does feel different, and not just because of performance. This man has done something to a fan base that was quietly walking away. He's made the White Sox worth watching again. There is a legitimate young core forming. Montgomery, Schultz, Meadrith, Guerrero, and Murakami is the anchor it needed. The White Sox have a precedent, as Getz himself noted, of locking up their franchise first baseman, right? Frank Thomas, Paul Konerko, Jose Abreu. Each of those was a different kind of player in a different era, and Murakami kind of fits that mold. Here's what I'll say flat out though. And I'll be very clear. If the Chicago White Sox allow this man to walk out the door, either by refusing to extend him or by trading him at the deadline for prospects or by simply waiting until 2027 and waving goodbye as he flies to LA or somewhere else, then every single fan on the South Side has permission to be done with this team forever. Because the thing about a rebuild is that there's a moment when you have to prove the rebuild was real. When a player like this lands in your lap, not through a trade, not through a draft, but because 29 other organizations left him on the table for you, and then proceeds to do this in 38 games, the response from the front office has to match the moment. The White Sox have been given a gift. The only question now is whether they know what to do with it. Murakami himself isn't thinking about any of it. He's said through his interpreter, it's very early in the season and still the start of my contract. I'm really happy where I am at the moment. I'm not looking too far ahead, but if that time comes and the White Sox obviously feel happy with me and want to extend me more, I'd consider that an honor, and that would be a happy situation for me as well. All I'm hearing is focus, presence, process. He's building on every day. The White Sox are in a division they haven't competed in for years and are currently kind of competing. And Murakami-sama, the god of baseball, is tied for the home run lead in the American League with Aaron Judge. That's where we are. And wherever this ends with an extension, trade, Dodger contract, and a lot of angry fans on the South Side, it's already something every baseball fan should be paying attention to. There's a reason they called him a god back in Japan, and he's showing why that title traveled to America. But that's all for today, guys. Do you guys think he's one of the greatest rookies of all time? I know it's early, and there's Ichiro, Trout, even Kurtz from last year, but is he putting up a power performance for the ages? And do you think the White Sox will actually invest in him and around him and turn this ship around? But that's all for today. I'll see you on the next one.